What's going on, Jam?
Hey, another Sunday, last Sunday of October.
A very witchy Sunday indeed. And if anything, I want to go ahead and welcome our listeners to episode 5 of our Big Letter, Little Letter podcast.
Hey, everybody.
Hopefully, everyone is having a very spooky weekend. And for those that are listening to the future, hopefully, you have a very spooky next Halloween.
I mean, isn't it like that once Halloween ends, you start planning your next Halloween? For me, at least, it's my favorite holiday.
See, I give myself a grace period of until after my birthday, and then after my birthday, which is in January, I go into full. All right, what we doing for Halloween?
That's fair.
But yeah, at least some of the at least I can let the Christmas people get by now because they're trying to sneak in on. They already took over Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is lost. They
They
go.
really did.
It's a wrap for Thanksgiving. I don't care about it. My whole thing is Halloween. Like don't Christmas my Halloween.
Right, because Target definitely took out all the Halloween stuff right before Halloween. And I didn't get my Halloween Oreos again.
You slipping.
It's not my fault. They put the Halloween Oreos out in like July and then they're gone by September.
All right. Well, at least now you know. Next July, get you your cookies.
I don't want cookies in July.
Psh, what? Cookies are good every time.
Not Halloween cookies.
See, now you're just tripping. You're being difficult at this point.
It's in my nature.
All right, I guess I'll go ahead and let you slide on the brat card.
Thank you.
All right, but let's at least go ahead and well, actually, before we get into the episode, let's get into our Kinky Weekly and discuss what kind of endeavors we got into.
Yesterday was super fun.
Want to go ahead and describe it?
Yes, yesterday I went to Hard Soft's Kinks and Drinks mixer, and it was one because you know me, I like to see my friends. So I
Mm-hmm.
got to see all of our favorites, the Naked Trumpeter, Santana, Bonnet Queen Santana, and they were all doing scenes at the same time, and it felt like a kinky wonderland.
See, that just actually sounds pretty amazing. I wish I could have made it up to New York myself to go, cause y'all are like well, you. It seems like you've been in recovery mode, but everyone else has been talking about it in the Discord.
It's true, but it's because I couldn't take my own pictures last night. That's why.
Did you dress up at all?
I did. I made my entire Tinkerbell costume. I am gonna post it. I'm posting like all of the parts on TikTok and then I'll post some pictures when I get them on Instagram.
All right, all right. And did you partake in any scene? Because I know Eli was working overtime yesterday.
He really what, child? When I tell you he started in full costume and ended in just his underwear and socks, he was putting in work.
I definitely believe it.
I saw him play the trumpet into somebody's coochie.
I actually saw that. I saw the video of that.
I hear it's a good experience. Something about the vibration.
Wouldn't that be like kind of like a sounding bath before your coochie?
You know? Oh my gosh. I didn't even think about that.
Oh, I'm just glad you had a good ass time.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, my partner was sick, but we went
Oh,
anyway. And even he had a good time. So I feel like when you can fight a sickness to have a good time at an event, it's worth it.
now I respect that. And of course, for the people, we are assuming it's nothing critical, nothing like COVID.
No, oh my goodness, no, not at all.
We don't live
I
that reckless
promise.
life.
We do not live that reckless life. If it was something contagious, we would not have gone, but he was all right. We did get to explore some rope together for the first time, so that was awesome.
Hmm. Well, for my weekend, I'm a part of this group, Kingster Trip Club, where it all started one weekend in Gunnison where it's like, yo, this is cool. We should just like go to places and do kinky stuff. And from there after that, like 3, 4 trips later, we just still kind of meet up in like spring and fall and just do shenanigans or whatever. And so this year they came near where I live in Austin over in Buda and got an Airbnb, and we were just, living our best life there. It was like pretty balanced in terms of tops and bottoms, like who could perform a scene, who wants something performed on them. Had a guy that was a mummified, and
What?
yeah, mummified, wrapped in bubble wrap, and then mummified, and then had a whole scene portrayed. Um, Involving a lot of like pressuring and crushing and face sitting.
Oh.
Um, I was involved in multiple impact scenes, so I got to use my array of things. I even got to use my brand new mallet. Yes, my
Oh
rubber
my
mallet.
goodness.
I have my butt bruisers from Etsy. Shout out to them. All my floggers. I even got to incorporate a bear claw for a little bit.
You have a lot of tools in your suitcase. We're gonna have to talk about toys and tools soon.
I mean, I already have an idea of how we should go through each one because we do. I do have my wax. I do have my rope. I do have my impact items as well as my pervertibles. So of course we're going to go ahead and talk into the tools of the trade. Both on the giving end and the receiving end.
We might actually have to record some video for that so that people can see.
See, I already had that in mind. Like, I'm working out the logistics, maybe
Look at
incorporate
you.
like a PG 13 ish level, and then maybe we have a more adult one that can be that can be branded in a monetary fashion. So,
Ooh.
we'll go ahead and see how we go about that later down the line. But yeah, as far as this weekend go, it was really nice. I got to see also a live demo of certain fire elements, be it the spritz of fire, a fire glove, a fire towel. It was a lot that was going on.
It sounds like a good time, and it combines the best of my favorite things, kink and travel.
So yeah, overall, it was a great experience. I do like the group that has been formed. So overall, it's a good vibe. I fucks with it. That's the reason why I always keep going.
Nice. You know what else is a good vibe?
Was also a good vibe.
Our letter of the day.
Ah, that is quite the vibe indeed. Want to go ahead and take it?
Today's letter of the day is A for aftercare.
All right, all right. So we are diving into aftercare. Did kind of tease this a bit last week, but yes, aftercare is a very important aspect when it comes to BDSM as well as in life in general. Because there are some traumatic things that you go through, and sometimes sitting down with a tub of cookie dough is your way of coping and getting yourself back to center.
That actually sounds delicious. Well,
But
let's talk about it. What is aftercare?
what is aftercare?
Well, in BDSM, aftercare is a period of time after a scene in which partners attend to one another's physical, emotional, and psychological needs. Typically, the dominant partner in a scene will be the one caring for the submissive partner or partners. BDSM scenes are often very intense and can often be emotionally or psychologically draining. Physical injuries are not uncommon during these scenes also, so you want to make sure to take care of those.
Yes, because this is very true, especially we do not belittle the emotional or psychological aspect of things because they're kind of a normally a scene is kind of a release for both parties, be it on the person on the top side getting a release from exacting their control on somebody, on the bottom side getting a release off of giving up that control. So when you are acting in such a manner, your brain, your body is gonna be in conflict after everything is said and done because like, yo, what the heck just happened here? And it's always good to like have a calm down to like just literally get back to equilibrium where you are more balanced and more yourself so you can revel in the scene that happened.
Yeah, I'm super visual, so I like to picture it when you think of astronauts. and how they go outer space. And then when they come back, there's a period of time astronauts have to take so their bodies can readjust to being back on Earth. Same thing.
Yeah, because that whole difference in gravity, that's real. And I would also want to point out when they're bringing up the psychological part, because yes, emotional, mental, but the reason for the psychological part really does come down to a motherfucker might have a trauma that they didn't even realize they had. So that aftercare really will come in the clutch, because there are some people that got their ass whooped as a kid and they think nothing of it, because it's like, I was a kid, I got my ass beat, I turned out okay. And then they get involved in their first BDS scene where they get their ass beat and they're like, oh my God, I don't know why I'm shaking. I don't know why I'm scared. So
Yeah.
aftercare in those instances might end up being a conversation to help that person kind of ease back into who they were before the scene and maybe even grow kind of from it.
Right. And everyone should be aware of these things. We're not saying you have to be somebody's therapist at this point, but be comfortable having difficult conversations.
All right, you want to go into more about aftercare?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about physical injuries. Because in BDSM, we do lots of scenes, impact, rope, and sometimes physical injuries happen and they need to be attended to. Um, then we also want to talk about your emotional healing and reconnection after a scene. During the period of aftercare, partners will often chat and snuggle, like we said, and the partner acting as a dominant will also often praise their submissive and reaffirm their importance. Because when you're coming down from subspace, you want to make sure you're coming back into your body and remember that, hey, you're a person and you did a really good job. And that's those are things you need to hear, especially as a sub. So aftercare is a very individual experience, and some subs may also prefer to take this time to be alone and tend to their own needs.
Some all that is pretty much what we were kind of going over before sharing that. It really does come down to remembering we are two humans involved in this moment, and to still remember that establishment that, like, yo, we're two humans in this moment. It's just, it's kind of crazy because aftercare, not because there's a word for it, I feel like a lot of people do these kinds of things without even realizing that there was like a word for it in just their day to day lives before any kind of BDSM aspect.
Oh, for sure. Most reasonable people find a way to do aftercare. And it might not look like what you think it looks like.
That's true, because they even said it. Someone want to be alone and tend to themselves. Like, I've run into quite a few people that's just like, after a scene, like, no, 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 I'm good. Let me just sit here for a while. And I'll just let them know, okay, I'll go ahead and leave you be, but I will be back to check in on you, because as a Dom, that is my job. I can't just neglect you after a scene. I gotta make sure that that time away was actually what you needed versus something that you just threw out there while you are struggling.
Right. And we've talked about checking in before. We've talked about checking in during scenes, but you should also check in during aftercare, especially if someone wants to do their aftercare alone. Then don't forget about them. Definitely go check in or ask somebody that they're close to check in.
So yeah, and as far as when one should discuss aftercare, it's honestly, there are two primary points to where you can discuss this. That's during negotiations and after a scene. Now, during negotiations, of course, you go ahead and list out all the fun and good things that you are going to do during the scene. You will also need to discuss what's going to happen when this, how, like, after you discuss how long the scene will be, you need to discuss after the scene is over what comes next. That is where you'll go ahead and get in what, either if that person knows their aftercare routine, you'll go ahead and take that in and hold that for your own knowledge, so that way you can go ahead and perform that after the scene is done. If they do not know, because some people are new to this, they won't know what is their aftercare. You want to go ahead and try and discuss, hey, what are the things that make you feel comfortable? Do you like to be your head pat? Do you like your back rub? Like, you try to find what are those things that make them feel like they are more calm, more centered, And then you'll try to use that to figure out what that aftercare routine will be during negotiations. As far as after a scene, because things can change, things are unpredictable. You may not know what happens. Again, we're talking about physical, emotional, psychological. As far as like physical, maybe an impact led to a laceration, so now the person may be bleeding lightly. You got to change up your aftercare because I'm positive that you did not negotiate. Hey, if a wound occurs, I'm gonna do this. So that's why you gotta like make sure you evolve aftercare as the scene progresses. Emotional. Maybe that person's low down dirty ex walked by during the scene and they caught a look at them and they were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this person seeing me in this way." Actually, that's emotional and psychological in one go. And with that, things need to evolve. So after a scene is done, you want to check in. You want to see if anything needs to be evolved as far as what the aftercare needs to look like. So, though I feel like those are the two primary ones, you can't really negotiate during a scene because you're in the middle of a scene. It's like trying to change a tire while going 100 miles an hour. It just can't be done.
Yeah, don't in the middle of a scene go, "Hey, you want me to hug you after I finish this vlogging right now?"
See, and more than likely, they will if you're doing a good ass job in the scene, they will likely say yes. It's like, hey, you
Well,
want to give me your
what?
social so I can open a brand new credit card? Yes, daddy.
Don't do that.
It's like, oh man, I am late on a mortgage payment. Can you go ahead and Zelle me like $3,000? Yes, sir.
All right, Vince. Listen, we already spoke about consent. You know what to and what not to do.
And this is definitely a not to do. Just make sure that you look to discuss aftercare before a scene starts during negotiations and when the scene is over. And I guess before we go into our break, let's throw in what can aftercare actually look like.
Right. I was going to say for our new little letters, if you're not really sure what aftercare looks like for you, just try to think of the things that help you unwind after a really long day. You can put those kinds of things into scenes, either smaller versions of it or, shorter versions. Let's hear it for that glass of wine you have at the end of the day. Maybe you get a glass of wine at the end of your scene.
And hey, those piles of stuffies that you have, go ahead and just take one when you go off to go do a scene. That way you can have that stuffy ready for you when you want to sit down and collect yourself.
Yeah, nobody's gonna double side eye you if you bring a stuffy to a play space. Just make sure to keep your stuffy clean.
For the initiated, stuffy is the short term for a stuffed animal. More times than not, it is the tool of choice for those that do a kind of age play.
All right, so let's talk aftercare. My favorite,
Hmm.
cuddling, of course.
I mean, you are a
Cuddling.
professional.
I am. But this is more than a hug. There's usually mats in play spaces. Take a corner, grab a little tight arm hug, and chill. Enjoy the scene. Look at out into the room or discuss what just happened.
Mhm. All right, I would say one that actually kind of made me chuckle, but hey, she had it pre-rolled was a blunt. Like
That's valid.
after a scene, she just want to go ahead and have one sparked up, sit back and just chill and relax.
That's a good one. And then for those of you who aren't inclined to physical touch, you could always give a high five or a handshake.
Those are all valid, just like a fist bump, a high five, like, hey, good job, bro, and keep it moving.
They work. They really do work.
Another one that I personally do, like even if it's not negotiated, it's just literally a kind gesture. It's literally like the bare minimum you can do. I ask them if they want some water or snacks after a scene is done, because just like even with sex, there is a lot of moaning, a lot of breathing. People get thirsty. A lot of energy is spent. Sometimes you need some goldfish crackers to like get yourself together.
Listen, you might not think a scene is physically taxing, but when you come out of it, mercy, please say yes to the water. But yeah, also when you're in the midst of the cuddling or the hug or anything, definitely do a scene recap. Have a conversation.
Cause yeah, like the scene recap is kind of it's kind of like a not a double entendre, but I would say it kind of benefits both the bottom and tops of the scene, because it helps on one hand if mistakes were made, that person can be made aware of said mistakes and avoid them in the future. If something was great but they didn't get enough of it, they know to okay, with in the future I need to add this more. Like say for instance, I'm doing the impact scene, and then I'm throwing in some bare hand spanking. But I didn't do a lot of it, maybe like 3 pats per cheek, and I just kept going with the flogger. In the scene recap, they can say like, actually, I wanted more bare hand spanking versus the flogger. That recap helps improve things and kind of like discuss like what was done with each other in this moment.
Yeah, personally, there were a lot of times when you have a scene and you're like, I thought I would like that, but I actually didn't. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you had a bad scene. It just means you tried something and you realized you didn't like it. Or like Hedo said, you tried something and you only got a little bit of it and you're like, I want to do that full on next time.
And I would say another one what aftercare can look like. Now, don't hate me for saying what this word is, because a lot of times, even though we're human, we like to be snobbish when it comes to certain physical activities. But yes, sex can be a part of an aftercare routine. Now, I do understand the purpose and reasoning for certain people to separate sex from BDSM, and they don't want to collude the two. It's kind of like the main reason why there is strife between calling lifestyle for swinging, which is primarily sex, versus lifestyle for dungeon things, which is primarily BDSM. And then you have people that do hybrids. Some people are annoyed at the hybrid on both sides because it's like, no, keep the two separate, but we're humans. We make up what we want to make up. So, yes, sex can be considered a part of aftercare. Just make sure it's negotiated and make sure you're not doing it in a creepy way so that way you can sleep with women just because you have a horrible personality but you know how to use a flogger.
Ooh, child, is that a word? But if you don't want to go the sex route, but your body's still feeling like it needs a little extra, a massage is also something you could put on the table.
Because, yeah, work out all the kinks that were beaten into you, rub out all the rope burns. Like, it's a good way to settle down.
I'm having flashbacks.
And another thing that we do have here, I think is the last one we have listed, is a handoff. Because there will be situations where the person that is doing the topping of said scene, maybe that person is hired for an event, so they gotta go through multiple people, so they can't do a personal catered aftercare for you. But you do have someone there that's for you that came with you. Could be a best friend, could be a lover, could just be a regular friend, or someone that you know that you can go to, sit with, hang with them as you come down from the scene. So it could. That's actually what happens to me a lot. Where after a scene is done, I ask them, "Hey, do you have someone that you can go to when the scene is over, so that way you can just chill and relax?" And they'll say yes. And when the scene is over, I will go ahead and walk them over to said partner. That way, I hand them off to them, so that way they can get the care that they need after a scene is done.
Yeah, this is really good, especially for new people in the scene when you're going to a party and you know some people will be demonstrating. Take somebody with you or know at least one other person there so that you could do a smooth handoff. You don't want to be just left to the wind after you do a demo trying to figure out how your body is feeling.
So yeah, and I feel like that covers at least some elements of what aftercare can look like. They're just primarily all about the two people coming together to kind of level things off before going back out in the world, because one of the worst things that can happen after a scene is a crash.
We've all been there.
Like, and when we say a crash, think of it like a coming down from a sugar high. Like you just feel drained, you feel depressed, you feel like everything just is sucked out of you. The point of aftercare is to reduce the risk of having that kind of crash happen, especially with someone coming down from subspace or even a dom coming down from a dom space. What got you?
I was about to sneeze.
All right, let's go ahead and take the break now so she can get that sneeze off, and we'll be right back with y'all.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I knew you'd go there.
Of course, I know you like that.
Well,
All
let's
right.
get into other things we like.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and wrap this up because clearly the hunger's taking over and I'm getting very musical.
You guys missed a lot in the break. So
All right.
everybody needs a nap.
I mean, naps are fine and well, but actually, a nap could be a form of aftercare.
Definitely good. But if it's not something that you do off first, how did you you could just take that out. Hito,
We're keeping
how
it
did you
in.
get introduced to the idea of aftercare? I'm tired.
I get that, but we're keeping it in. See, that was actually pretty solid. But nah, Jam, to go ahead and answer you, to be honest, I was kind of doing aftercare on my sexual endeavors without knowing what it actually was. Like, the main example would be like cuddling after an intense sex session because, again, I didn't know what was breath play. I didn't know what was impact. Hell, I didn't know what was degradation, but that was some of the shits that I was doing during my sexual endeavors. And
Ooh.
after those kind of like heavy sessions, we would just cuddle, we would just chat, we would just kind of like, it was like a mutual aftercare between me and who I was doing it with. It was like a way to slow down our heartbeats, come back to earth. It was kind of a way to just mellow out. So when I got into BDSM and came across this term, I'm like, oh, okay, this does make sense. Because, like, I'm introducing trauma to a body, though consented, is still trauma. Bringing them
Right.
back down is a job of mine as well. I did also learn and pick up that I have to be mindful of my own aftercare. I make sure to include that in negotiations because it is rarely discussed the needs of for a dom's aftercare. So I make sure that during negotiations that I kind of include my form of aftercare, which is generally a hug as well as a kind of recap of what the scene was about. Um, because like since we're the ones in control, like with that control, we got to remember to look out for ourselves as well as our subs. But yeah, what about you, Jam?
That's good that you said that because I was gonna say we talk a lot about the aftercare of the little letter here of our subs, but don't forget the aftercare of the Doms. For me, um, I've been living this life 24/7, 365. I I'm naturally inclined to aftercare in my everyday life. I love cuddling, is what I do. But even after sex, but after hard days too. Listen, I'm a teacher. I have a lot of hard days and I need to keep someone in my house so I could come home to a cuddle, consensually.
Consensually.
I'm not keeping anybody hostage in my house, I promise. But I
Heads
do
up,
like
we will be discussing consensual non consent in the future.
I'm so excited. But later. I like coming home. I put on comfy clothes. I wrap myself in a blanket. Like that's all aftercare. Sitting in silence while your body just grounds back into the earth. So that I think that's the easiest way to understand aftercare. Like the thing you do to stop your brain neurons from firing so rapidly, that's aftercare. And I learned aftercare for myself as self perseverance, because I listen. I talk about trauma all the time, but I really do talk about it from a personal experience. Sometimes we can get very overwhelmed with the things that are happening in life, and we need to find a way to take care of ourselves. And then when I started in BDSM, I was lucky to have a lot of people around me showing me what aftercare looked like after scening. They were asking if I wanted water, if I wanted to take a seat, if I wanted hugs, kisses. People also bought me snacks, and I really like snacks.
And of course, the kissing clearly is not going to come from random folks. So that
Not
yeah,
random.
that'd be a little creepy. You just have someone pop up. Yo, that was an intense scene. Want some kisses?
You
Un-
want some kisses?
Unless you misinterpreted and they're like, no, 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 Hershey's kisses. Like I got a whole hit, like the one with almonds.
Hey, man, you need to be very explicit with what you're talking about.
But definitely understand all that, especially because a lot of things, just living life, is drawn into BDSM. Like, who can imagine being berated by principals, by other teachers, by little kids, by their
Mhm.
parents? Like, who wouldn't want a little aftercare after all that? Like, who wants to just come home and just like, oh, I guess I gotta go ahead and cook and do things for everybody. Versus, I had a hard day. Come on, bring it in. Let me wrap you in this blanket like a burrito and hold you.
Right. I'll tell you right now, during COVID, I used to do meetings with a blanket wrapped around me. This was active aftercare. This was current care.
During care. All right, now Jam. What is your normal aftercare go tos?
Well, as a professional cuddler, I'm always down to start a cuddle puddle in the middle of a party. And my favorite are hugs. I like to just like sit in the middle of a room, especially at parties where there are mats on the floor and like taking the energy of the room. I get really excited about that stuff. So after my scene, and I was just in the middle of it, and then it's like you come out of the play and you're back in the audience and you're watching the play and you're like, damn, I was just up there like doing the damn thing, and people are looking at you like that was so good. And then you kind of just like, I mentally go through what happened in the scene, and I'm like cheesing to myself, and people are asking me if I want water and like holding me close. That's what I like. I'm into that stuff.
Okay.
What about you, Hito? What kind of aftercare have you provided or received for yourself?
So I have provided massages, cuddles, gotten water and snacks. I said before, grab someone's pre roll and lit it for them. And like for one, like and I air her out because she wanted like an orgasm after the scene that we did, and this was negotiated and is a partner of mine, so it wasn't just some random person down the street. Um, but yeah, like aftercare for myself, hugs, cuddles, recap comments and praise for the scene. Like once I hear like, yo, you did that thing, it makes me feel like an accomplishment. Like, whew, okay, good. And then again, comments. If it's like, you kind of hit this bad area here. Will I feel a little shitty? Yes, but it still brings me down to earth to be like, all right, I gotta be more mindful of what it may be happening here. Like I'm a thinker, so physical touch brings me back to earth, and talks focuses my mind on improvement. So that's my normal go-tos for aftercare.
That's good. I love me somebody who knows themselves.
I mean, if you don't know yourself, how can you know others?
And with that word, I think we can wrap this up. For-
Definitely.
Remember, everybody, if you take anything away from here, remember that everybody needs aftercare, and everyone's aftercare is different.
Yep. It's just something that you want to go ahead and look into, learn about, be it for your own version of aftercare or the aftercare of others. Honestly, it just takes a little bit of skills and a little bit of communication skills and a lot of listening in order to like just make someone's day just a little bit better post scene.
Amazing. So, how can the people find you and maybe get a sneak peek of the things that you have in your toy suitcase?
See, for now, I do have like an OnlyFans and Excite Buddy that I'm looking to set up, but that's like future endeavors as far as videos and whatnot, because audio podcasts are great, but physically showing where impacts can be held, physically showing where to avoid, where to tie rope, that seems so much more fun. So I will be working on looking to get like videos up of the things that we're discussing. But for now, you can follow me at Hedonistic Dom on IG, Hedonistic underscore Dom on Twitter, and Hedonistic Dom underscore at the end for FetLife. What about you, Jam?
Well, if you ever want to cuddle with me, you can find me at MaryJane'sCouch.space. And if you just want to see what I'm up to, you can find me on IG as I underscore mean underscore her, Twitter as Lady Lies Waiting, or Fet, which I don't check often, so sorry if you're sending friend requests at Love Aphrodite.
Well, all right. That's all we got for today. We'll be sure to be back next week with a new episode. Until then, be sure to be kinky and stay safe.
Always, friends. Bye.
Bye.